Jeff Smith, do you have any idea why in the early 2000s Miscavige dismantled management and formed the Whole? How did destroying the structure help him at all? It seems he just went crazy. Also, since management is gone, who issues his orders and makes sure they are done? Okay, if you have not watched my video called Scientology's Organizational Madness, you absolutely need to do so, because that lays out the structure of Scientology's bureaucracy and how David Miscavige has, what management is supposed to look like and what management now looks like and how it's run. It's not that there isn't anybody up at international management or no orders happen or that there's no structure of any kind. It's that it's not the structure and setup that L. Ron Hubbard put there, and it's not what Scientologists think is going on. In the late 1990s, and I believe right after the year 2000 New Year's celebration, David Miscavige was issuing some evaluations, a series of programs for the international base. I was not there. This is all secondhand information for me. But he issued these evaluations and said, okay, there's all these hundreds of things to get done here in order to make this place tip-top and run, and get the trains running on time. And no compliance that was given to those orders was really ever accepted. He just kept kicking it back and getting in people into these endless cycles of trouble after trouble after trouble. And he was saying that he felt betrayed by everybody around him. He could not trust them. They were not doing their job. Now, what motivated him to do this and operate this way, that this went on for, years? I can't say. I don't know what goes on in the guy's head. But this is what he did. And people were trying to comply to these orders and get their jobs done in the meantime, because the orders did not always fit with, in lockstep with what their job was. But Miscavige had taken over so many parts of their job, and as managers I'm talking about the Executive Director International and the Senior CS International and the President of the Church of Scientology, and these high positions. He was just stepping in and doing their job whenever he felt like it, issuing random orders or directions on what he wanted done, which was maybe whimsical, maybe some master plan in his head. I don't really know, but this is what he was doing. And when they kept pissing him off and kept not doing whatever it was he wanted done, he applied harsher and harsher levels of Scientology ethics and justice to these people, to the point where he eventually conditionally declared them suppressive people. Now, there is no such thing in Scientology as a conditional declare. David Miscavige, as far as I can tell, made it up. If L. Ron Hubbard did it, I never heard about it. But David Miscavige definitely did it. And he said, okay, you're declared, and the issue is written, and I'm ready to kick your butt right out of here, but I'm not going to do it. You're going to stay under my thumb, and you're going to work. And it was sort of just this, status thing of you were constantly in trouble. These executives were put into a position where they were just constantly in ethics trouble, constantly being made wrong and invalidated for any efforts they were making to do their job or make Scientology better. This eventually led to the Whole, where he just, had people sleeping over in their offices, not going home, for, days and weeks on end. And finally, he just locked them in there and put bars on the windows and locked the doors, put a guard on the door, and said, you people are just, I've had it, up to here, and I can't trust any of you, and you guys work it out amongst yourselves to get your ethics in. And this is where Mike Rinder and Marty Rathbun and various people have described the conditions that they lived under there, where it became this sort of Lord of the Flies crazy situation. Now, when he did that, he didn't lock up everybody, and from time to time, he would pull people out when something needed to get done that that Miscavige either didn't want to do or didn't know how to do. And so this would go on, where people would be pulled out and pulled back in and pushed back in. And this was demonstrated, for example, by Mike Rinder coming out at one point when he was in the Whole to go speak at an international event. And he looked gaunt and horrible, but he was up there in his uniform, cleaned up and shaved. And then right after the event was over, right back into the Whole he went. Or when John Sweeney from the BBC was investigating Scientology and Rinder got pulled out of there, and you better handle this guy. And him and Tommy Davis, went off to deal with John Sweeney. And then at that point, that was Rinder's breaking point, and he took off from there, and he didn't go back to the hole because he didn't want to deal with that crap anymore. So that's kind of, as I understand it, the evolution of that situation. But Miscavige still has juniors under him who do his bidding. He has RTC and he has international management. There's a few hundred people up there, and not all of them were under this conditional suppressive person declare all the time. Now you also have, as I lay out on my Organizational Madness video, you have a whole other echelon below the international management, okay? And that middle management section is where I used to work. And there's an international middle management, and then there's a continental middle management office. I worked at the continental level for the Western United States. And those levels, the middle management, operates on programs, a series of targets to get done, and there are maybe 50, 60 different programs that are in operation at any one time. Some of them important, some of them not so important. In the 1990s, David Miscavige wrote and issued a series of programs called the Inspector General Network Bulletins. Those were given down to us in 1998. And those were the series of orders that we were operating on as our top priority for years. So we didn't need tons of new direction and orders coming down, although we certainly got enough from the international middle management section, right, which is called the International Liaison Office. They're the ones who were issuing orders to us at the continental level. And quite honestly, after 2000, there was very little coming from the very, very top. Prior to 2000, we used to get programs and issues and directions from international management all the time. And then it sort of got real quiet. And quiet from that level, not quiet to us from the International Liaison Office. So we were still, getting hammered to get these Inspector General Network Bulletins done, which were considered orders personally from David Miscavige, as well as lots of other programs and things to execute in the orgs. So that's what my time was spent doing, and I spent years and years doing that in management before I finally got burned out and kind of got done with management and started doing other things in Scientology, and I wasn't part of that management picture anymore. So then in 2004 or 5 is when the whole push came down for ideal orgs. And then there were new programs coming down to get ideal orgs, but it was mostly about fundraising. And then the two predominant things that started ruling Scientology at all levels was fundraising, selling those books, the basic books and lectures, and International Association of Scientology fundraising, which was membership fundraising. So IAS, right? The IAS salespeople would run around and make money, just pure straight donations for Scientology, not for services, not for books, not for lectures. And those became the priorities for Scientology, which is why I said, in many times in the past that the whole world of Scientology morphed into something that was really just about money. And prior to that, there was always the money factor, but there were other things we were trying to do too, like make auditors, make clears, get people up the bridge. I mean, these were our top priorities. After this 2004 or 5, none of that really mattered so much anymore. In fact, really, after 1996 is really when that started tanking. And by 2005, it was just about the money. So, and when fundraisers would go around, our orders down to the orgs would be to support the fundraisers, get the fundraising going, money, 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 quotas on the money, how much money they had to make. And that was the top priority. So I hope all of this kind of paints a picture for you that answers this question of how things changed radically over that period of time in Scientology and how it really hasn't changed since then. Now, I haven't been in the church in the last few years, but I don't think there's been another paradigm shift. I think things have stayed pretty much the way I just described. And from what I hear and what I see, that's how it's going. So that's about as good a description of the whole thing as I can give you. But if you haven't seen that video, I talked about the organizational structure, then please do so all of what I just said has even more context for you.